come back at 12:30. I'll give her another minute. My phone doesn't show me the time yet, so.
Miss Moderator, I just want to make sure that Bryce Penny is with us because he's also recording this, webcasting it, I should say. He's webcasting.
Yes, he is online with us, and he is also on the chat with us. So he's been here since the beginning.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then. It's 12:30 p.m. on May 6th, 2021. We're resuming the Board of Behavioral Sciences. My name is Max Disposi. I'm the board chair, pronounced Ham. We are opening the petition portion of this board, and Judge Wang will be actually leading the process for the next two petitions to be held. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Court Reporter, if I could get a page estimate from the last matter, please.
Yes, Your Honor, I have 40 pages.
Great, thank you. All right, so we will move to the Joseph Neal Edwards matter. And I see, Mr. Edwards, you've been promoted. If you could turn on your video if you haven't already.
Your Honor, if I may interject before we proceed to this matter.
Sure.
Mr. Neft the previous petitioner, has emailed that letter that we were discussing to his probation monitor. It has been uploaded to the board's cloud, and I have it, and I will upload it to OAH right now.
Great, thank you.
So, Your Honor, Mr. John Sovak will be back in a few minutes. He has some emergency matters that he has to handle. So I wonder if we can wait, otherwise he can't participate.
Mr. Chairman, I'm happy to wait. What's your pleasure?
If it's only 2 minutes, yes, I think that's okay. Because we do have a long day, and I definitely don't want to prevent Mr. Sovak to be able to vote on the matter. So just 2 minutes, that would be okay without taking another break.
All right.
So just, yeah.
And Your Honor, if I may, I need to get a list of all of the board members, if it's possible, from somebody.
I could do that. Do you want me to give it to you now, or do you want me to email it to Diamond?
Oh, or you could email it to me directly, if you could do that.
Just as long as you, I'm happy to do that. Just keep in mind, we're in a public forum, so if you give me your email now, it will be up to the public.
It's either that way, or if you wanted to, there's quite a few. I know you probably don't want to go through the whole list with me.
Either way, while we're waiting, I could do that.
Okay, great. Yes, there's just a few people I'm not getting the correct names and spellings.
Okay, so the chairman, his first name is Massimiliano. That's
yes.
Massimiliano. You may have also heard him, or someone else mentioned Max, M-A-X. And his last name is Disposti. He is I-S-P-O-S-T-I. And the vice chairwoman is Christina, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-N-A, Wong, W-O-N-G. And I don't believe we mentioned the two members that were not present, because I think the only time the names were called were during a quorum. So next is Deborah, D-E-B-O-R-A-H, Brown, B-R-O-W-N. And then Susan, S-U-S-A-N, Friedman, F-R-I-E-D-M-A-N. Next is Diana, D-I-A-N-A, Herwick, H-E-R-W-E-C-K. And then Christopher, C-H-R-I-S-T-O-P-H-E-R. Middle initial C as in Charles. Last name Jones, J-O-N-E-S. And then Jonathan Maddox, J-O-N-A-T-H-A-N-M-A-D-D-O-X. And then Kelly Ranasinger, K-E-L-L-Y, capital R-A-N-A-S-I-N-G-H-E. Next is John Sovek, J-O-H-N, last name is S-O-V-E-C. And then Wendy Strack, W-E-N-D-Y, last name is S-T-R-A-C-K. And then last is Yvette, Y-V-E-T-T-E, Willis, W-I-L-L-I-S.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. And I see Mr. Sovek, I think, is back. Yes, great, thank you. All right. So Madam Court Reporter, if we could, actually, let me do one more thing. I want to make sure I see Mr. Edwards. Let me scroll here. Mr. Edwards, do you have your video on?
I do.
This is the moderator. He is visible in the top panel.
There we go. I was just scrolling through. All right, very good. Let's go ahead and go back on the record. So we are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Joseph, J-O-S-E-P-H, Neal, N-E-A-L, Edwards, E-D-W-A-R-D-S. It's OAH number 2021-040-525. My name is Quorum Wong. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I have been assigned to preside over this matter. To establish a quorum of the board, for the record, I request that each member respond audibly after his or her name is called. Mr. Chairman?
Present.
Madam Vice Chairwoman?
Here.
Ms. Brown?
Here.
Ms. Friedman?
Here.
Dr. Herwick?
Here.
Mr. Jones?
Here.
Mr. Maddox?
Here.
Mr. Ranasinger?
Here.
Mr. Sovek?
Present.
Ms. Strack?
Here.
Ms. Willis?
Present.
Let the record reflect that a quorum of the board is present. Ms. Jarvis, if I could take your appearance for the record.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California, pursuant to Government Code Section 11522. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Mr. Edwards, if I could just have you state your name for the record.
Joseph Neal Edwards.
All righty. And Mr. Edwards, were you present during the prior matters when I went over the procedural aspect of these hearings?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Do you have any questions?
No.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Ms. Jarvis, do you wish to give your summary statement and introduce the petition packet at this time?
Yes, Your Honor. On July 3rd, 2015, Petitioner was issued an LMFT license. On or about February 19th, 2017, just less than 2 years later, Petitioner was arrested for driving while under the influence of alcohol. The circumstances were that at approximately 1:19 in the morning, Petitioner's vehicle was pulled over on the freeway, but was still blocking one lane of traffic. When officers approached the vehicle, Petitioner was observed sleeping in the driver's seat. Petitioner's blood alcohol content was approximately 0.17%. Petitioner was convicted of driving while having a blood alcohol content greater than 0.08% and sentenced to probation for 5 years. He was ordered to complete a 3-month first offender DUI program and attend the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Victim Impact Panel. Via stipulated settlement, effective September 7th, 2018, Petitioner agreed that his license would be revoked, with the revocation stayed for a 5-year probation term, and he would then complete specified conditions of probation. One of those conditions of probation was to attend regular psychotherapy. Then on or about February 7th, 2020, Petitioner requested to eliminate therapy altogether, and that request was approved. At this time, Petitioner is fully compliant with probation, including having paid his costs in full and completing 2 units of continuing education in substance use and abuse. In support of his petition, excuse me, Petitioner provided the following information: a letter from the County of San Diego appointing Petitioner co-chair to the Transition Age Youth Behavioral Service Council, a brochure from the 10th Annual Primary Care and Behavioral Health Integration Summit, which shows that Petitioner was a presenter regarding how prevention and early intervention programs can lead to a brighter future, a letter from Petitioner's therapist supporting his petition, letters from the board approving the termination of therapy and acknowledging completion of the remedial education units, and then proof of payment of the probation costs. Petitioner also submitted continuing education hours totaling 34 hours from March through December of 2019. Petitioner submitted performance evaluations from 2018 and 2019, wherein he averaged approximately a 4 on a scale of 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest rating. Petitioner provided AA support group sign-in sheets, which show regular attendance from September 14th, 2018 through September 23rd, 2020. Petitioner finally provided an order granting early termination of his criminal probation on or about August 14th, 2020, and also an order that appears to grant the dismissal of his conviction pursuant to Penal Code Section 1203.4. Once again, as discussed this morning, the entire petition packet was submitted as one PDF document, with the petition starting on page 4. The underlying decision and order started on page 50, and there is a license history certification on page 74 of the PDF. The notification of hearing starts on page 72 of the PDF. And I would like to have the entire packet submitted as Exhibit 1.
Right, those documents will be marked collectively as Exhibit 1. Mr. Edwards, any objection to Exhibit 1 being admitted for all purposes?
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, Exhibit 1 is so admitted. Anything further, Ms. Jarvis?
No, Your Honor, thank you. It is now the petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
All right, Mr. Edwards, first, let me ask you, do you have any witnesses that you wanted to call other than yourself?
No, Your Honor.
And do you have any additional documents you wanted to submit?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Do you wish to testify at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
If I could have you raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will provide in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. You may put your hand down. And just to remind you that what the board is most interested in hearing today is about any rehabilitation you have undergone since your license was disciplined. So whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you to the board and all attending for your willingness to hear and consider my case today. I'd like to start by saying that I regret putting the public at risk the night of my arrest while driving intoxicated. I though it horrifies me that I might have been responsible for harming someone that evening, and I'm very thankful that I did not. On a certain level, I'm grateful that my unhealthy, dangerous relationship with alcohol became apparent that day, and that legal and professional consequences followed. Specifically grateful to the criminal justice system and the Board of Behavioral Sciences for holding me to account and compelling me to begin a journey which has led to me becoming a better clinician, a better leader, and a better human being. I'd like to add to that a better husband and a good father. The requirements of the court and the board presented an opportunity for me to explore my problem with drinking with others who shared the same problem, and to be educated as to how I might address this issue, as I had never addressed it before. Early on in this journey, largely through attendance to AA meetings, I was able to face the fact that I'm an alcoholic, that my life was becoming unmanageable. The DUI was a glaring example of this. I learned that I was using alcohol as a way to cope with stress, anxiety, and frustration. And this was inconsistent with my profession and the advice that I had given staff and clients alike. I was beginning to lose control of how much I was drinking when I chose to drink. And it became clear to me that the only way to address this emerging pattern was to become abstinent on my own volition, not just due to the requirements of the board. I trusted the friends that I was making in AA that the only way that I could do that was to get a sponsor and work the steps. And so I did. And it's been very helpful, life-changing, really. Since my stipulation began, I also completed, as required, a course of therapy, which was helpful in identifying my triggers to anxiety and anger, and finding more effective ways to manage my stress. As a result of my engagement in AA and personal therapy, I changed my lifestyle significantly to build my baseline stress tolerance and generally increase my physical, mental, and emotional health. Since 2018, I've lost 35 pounds. I adhere to a strict exercise regimen, and I've changed over my diet significantly. I feel that this takes a lot of maintenance, but it keeps me at the level of strength and clarity that I need to be at in order to take care of my family and meet the requirements of my work. My strength, confidence, and effectiveness, both personally and professionally, has increased significantly since becoming sober and improving my lifestyle otherwise. I hope that this is evident in the supporting materials that I've provided today. And I want to thank you all again for your considering my petition. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jarvis, cross-examination.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. So, Mr. Edwards, you still attend AA to this day then?
That's correct.
And have you worked the 12 steps?
I have.
What was the most meaningful step to you?
I think maybe the most difficult and helpful steps, aside from step one, just becoming aware that you have the problem and choosing to address it, I think might be the most important. But I think the most continually helpful are steps 4, just to become honest about what you've done and take a personal inventory, and then moving forward, step 10, a related step, of course, where you just continue that process into the future.
Can you explain a little more how step 10 is related to step 4, continuing the process of honesty into the future?
Moment to moment, trying to take ownership when there's a conflict in your life or a problem in a relationship or feelings of anger, taking that inventory, being responsible for it, that begins in step 4, but continues in step 10.
Okay. And you mentioned that you have a sponsor. Have you worked with one sponsor since you joined AA?
Yes, off and on. There's been gaps where I wasn't in contact with him, but I've had the same sponsor.
And have you ever sponsored somebody else?
No, but I'm currently, I feel like that is the next step. And if anything's been missing from program, it's been that. I'm considering sponsoring a childhood friend of mine who was, according to him, inspired by my quitting drinking and wanting to improve his own life. And he's been joining me at meetings and has asked me to sponsor him. I'm considering that currently.
What is your official sobriety date?
That would be September 6th, 2018.
I'm just looking for the effective date of your decision. So the day before the effective date of your probation.
That's correct.
And why did you continue to drink after being arrested and then convicted of DUI until the day before the effective date of your probation?
I was not convinced that I was an alcoholic until several months after the stipulation. Continuing in AA really brought me to that realization, and then I was able to take not just compelled action, consequences from the board, but really personal action, and be able to accept this and move forward. So I had experimented with sobriety after being arrested and trying to kind of convince myself that I didn't have the problem that I did. And so I did continue drinking sporadically until the stipulation.
Okay, thank you. I have no other questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Edwards, anything else you would like to say on your behalf?
Nothing comes to mind. Thank you, Your Honor.
All righty. Thank you. I'll turn it over to the board now. First, Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you so much. Mr. Edwards, it's good to see you here. Thank you for sharing your progress and your journey with us today. So really much appreciated. So I just more like trying to pieces together, the story, the journey that you just shared with us in regards to the after. You mentioned a little bit, we read a little bit about your family, your support system around you, and how important it is for you. How would you, I know that also we modified the petition like a year ago, am I correct? That was into 2020.
The requirement for therapy was
Right.
ended. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so can you tell us a little bit more? You are already touching into it, so I don't want you to repeat, but what the probation has done for you, like you say, you've done the work to really recognize where you were, and also the modification, if it obviously was beneficial, but how it's affecting you. So because it seems like the probation is doing great work for you, it's really put you in the right track. So our concern is always like, why now? Why we should, take that support system away from you, and how you feel about this, how you think it's actually going to work once, if the board, accept your proposal.
That's a fair question, and the probation has been life-changing, and I'm grateful that this happened. I'm saddened that it had to be in such dangerous circumstances where I was putting others' lives at risk. But it has changed my life. I needed to be compelled to look at what was going on. And why I think I'm ready for those supports to be lifted is that I've really been spending this time trying to build in my life internal resources and my own external resources of support to move forward. And I've recently become a father, and my wife has been very supportive during this whole situation, and has been inspired by my lifestyle change and has joined me. And then we had a child, and I have so much at stake personally, and my family and my work means so much to me, and it's such a weight really off of my shoulders to be able to do this work and not be a hypocrite about it, and be able to talk to people about relieving stress and not have to feel shame about using alcohol to do so. And so I just feel that I've got a lot of personal motivation, and my life has improved so much that I feel motivated, and I've got supports in my life, my family, my wife, my colleagues. I think that everything is in place for me. I have a lifestyle change, other new friends, sober friends, that partake in this lifestyle with me in terms of diet and exercise. And so I feel like I have the scaffolding, and I've built the resources internally and around me to be able to move forward without the probation. But I want to repeat, the probation changed my life. I was talking with my wife the other day, and it occurred to us that things might have gone down a different path, and if it weren't for the probation, we would likely not have our son and our family how in its configuration today. So, and not to get overly spiritual about it, but things happen for a reason. I'm a healthier man. I'm a better clinician. I'm a better leader in my job, and I'm thankful to have my son, and I wouldn't put that at risk for anything. I'm very highly motivated to continue this journey.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards, and congratulations on your fatherhood. And speaking about stress, that's a trigger right there for a lot of us.
Stress relief, both gives me stress and relieves my stress.
Right. Last thing, can you tell us a little bit more about your work environment, the clients that you're serving, just for the sake of public knowledge? We've read a little bit about that, but also a little bit, so your interactions with your clients, how your story has played a role, if any, into this relationship, and also your work environment, the people you're serving, and the supervision that you have.
Sure. So the clientele that I work with mostly are people that are showing early signs of psychosis or have recently had a psychotic break. And so I work specifically and train therapists in the peer model of intervention and early intervention and prevention of psychosis. So it has a lot to do with working with families to do specific problem-solving exercises, stress reduction. As I said, it's to have that inconsistency was gnawing at me, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I think that just being able to be present, consistent, healthy, clear-headed, both with my clients who are dealing with significant issues, and along with the psychotic symptoms comes many mood-related symptoms, as many of you know. And so some of the clients I've worked with are very high acuity and high risk. And previous to the probation, when the stress of the job started to get to me, I would use alcohol to cope with that. And it didn't overflow specifically into my work, but I've noticed since I became sober, I just have a higher stress tolerance, a clearer head, a higher frustration tolerance. And I think I'm just more confident, consistent in my work. And that is with colleagues in my leadership role and with the kids that I work with. I call them kids, but they're, some of them are in their early 20s.
Thank you.
I also just wanted to add, I do have just a handful of clients in private practice on the side for extra income, and that's a wider. It's not only psychosis. I do have psychosis clients, clients who suffer from psychosis in my private practice, but there's also just general anxiety and relational issues in terms of client work. And I feel that my work in all areas has improved.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for answering that. Just the last thing, observation, because I was trying to understand a little bit more about your relationship with because obviously you're supervised in the work you do, even though you're a trainer of other clinicians, you're supervised. So how this work you've done on yourself that you share the journey with us has affected your relationship with the supervisor? How comes to play in these relationships? And I don't want to go too much in the clinical aspect of it. I'm also not a clinician, but more about the journey of coming together, in a clinical space. How is mature in coming to terms with what has happened and how affected your profession. So I would like to hear more from that.
Sure. I'm happy to say that this was difficult for my supervisors, the regional director and the program director, to accept what had happened. And but they did believe that I was doing good work and that I would move forward responsibly. And it took some hard conversations and some awkward conversations, but I think it's increased because since then I've been able to become honest with my supervisors on a more personal level for the benefit of our professional relationship. So they trust that I'm taking action personally and that my personal life isn't going to interfere with our mission. And so I think it's really increased trust and communication. I'm pretty open about it, especially with the program director whom I work with every day. She understands that I'm in recovery and she's seen the transformation, and she's very supportive.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. No further question, Your Honor. Thank you again.
Madam Chair, Vice Chairwoman, any questions?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. And also thank you, Mr. Edwards, coming to appear with us today. I have some questions. Can you explain a little bit more about your current role? So what kind of responsibilities do you have apart from being a clinician?
Sure. So my role as a clinician at the clinic, or work at a psychosis prevention clinic, my role as a clinician is fairly limited. I only have one case now, and the cases that are assigned to me are considered particularly complex, and because I have a little more clinical experience than the other therapists, even the licensed clinicians. So I do that work, but most of what I do is some administrative follow-up and training on behalf of our agency. The peer model is a very specific way of providing services to benefit and mitigate symptoms of psychosis. And so I spend most of my time training and consulting on specific issues related to the theoretical model and helping the staff to learn and kind of master the clinical documentation in order to satisfy county requirements and agency requirements. So a lot of it is just training and consultation around specific agency services.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We lost Chairman Disposti. So let's go ahead and take a break for a minute so we could get him back on. So let's go ahead and go off the record.
This is the moderator. It appears that he is having some technical difficulties on his end. He is still online. His camera just is off.
Oh, okay. Can he still hear us, Madam Moderator?
Unfortunately, I wouldn't have that information.
Oh, okay.
But if you notice that little triangle that's up in the corner of his screen, that's showing that he's having some technical difficulties.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and wait until we could get confirmation that he can at least hear. Madam Vice Chairwoman, I don't see the chairman reconnecting. Do you want to keep waiting, or how would you like to proceed?
This is the moderator. I have been informed he needs about 5 minutes to rejoin the meeting.
Okay,
He's having
nope.
computer difficulties.
No
Should we
problem.
take a break in that sense? You know, we can probably just wait shortly, you know, so that Max can have that participate in his entirety.
I'm happy to do that if you want to just take like a 5-minute break.
Yeah, let's just take a 5-minute break and be back by 1:15 p.m.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So moderator, I think we are ready to resume.
All right, the meeting's yours, and I will monitor for Max to be back.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you so much. So let's resume, and I believe it's my part. And I kind of like forget what I have, where I'm going. Oh, okay, now I remember. So Mr. Edwards,
Okay,
so,
hang on.
so sounds like you're doing a lot of the,
Madam
oh, okay,
Vice Chair,
yes, sorry, Your
just 1 second.
Honor.
Let me, let's go ahead and go back on the record.
Oh, sorry, yes.
And so it's my understanding we're going to proceed without Chairman Disposti.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. My apology for jumping ahead of you. So, yes, so Mr. Edwards, let's go back to my question. So it sounds like you're doing a lot of the training, consultation. So are you supervising any of the interns and providing them clinical hours?
No, that's something that I would like to do, and the agency I think would benefit from if I were able to take on that role. But no, I'm not signing off on any hours. It's very specific training in terms of peer model, theoretical perspective, and documentation training.
Okay. So, and thank you so much for this. And I want to jump into the other question. So sounds like, that you didn't start your, you had that, during the time before, from your criminal probation, to our stipulation, you were still using alcohol. And so, so I am very interested in knowing about your mentality. I think you kind of like, talk a little bit, but, if criminal probation, it is scary enough, and you were required to do pretty much the similar, requirement. And so, I think apart, from education and probably individual therapy, why is it that was not serious enough for you to wake up and start your sobriety right there? Why did you wait until, the day, when you knew that you had to sign a stipulation and then you quit drinking?
To be quite frank, I was in denial. I think I was overconfident and considered this an isolated incident and that I had things well under control, and that slowly became apparent to me that is not the case, and this was evidence that I had a problem that needed to be addressed. So it was a delayed response, and regretfully, I wish I would have kind of seen the light a little bit earlier. But that's the hard truth of it. I was in denial and didn't want to accept what I needed to do.
And understandable. So, so now we know that, in our coping mechanism, denial is one of the hardest to crack. And so especially, when you use alcohol seems to, it seems like, you use your, alcohol way back when to deal with stress and anxiety like you talked about. And so how do you know that you're not going to, go back to that lifestyle and using alcohol to, to cope?
That is a fair question, and I think that it's because my new coping mechanisms are so much more effective and deeply gratifying. I think the improvements that I've made, they've shown themselves to be so effective that I have no desire to go back, and I don't, because I've put in some hard work to improve how I manage stress and how I cope with difficult situations. I don't feel like I don't feel that I'll resort to that coping mechanism again. I feel like I've put in the hard work that it takes, and I'm motivated to continue. I'm also, and I want to really credit AA with this, but this is my understanding of this is clear in my mind. If I feel that I can control drinking and go back to that type of lifestyle, that will trigger a slide into disaster. And that's really how I feel about it. I honestly feel very, very lucky that things didn't get worse. And I think that things would have gotten worse. And I don't want to go back there.
And that desire to not to go back is pretty important. So thank you so much. And I think I will leave that open for my fellow board members to ask questions. So I have no more question, Your Honor.
Your Honor, just for the record, I'm back. I apologize. My computer just got overheated. I don't know why it never happened. So I really apologize. I feel really bad. Mr. Edwards, I'm sorry to you directly. I'm sorry for the inconvenience.
That's
But I'm
okay.
back now.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Ms. Brown, any questions?
I have none at this point.
Okay. Ms. Friedman?
No question, but thank you very much. I'm very interested in your work with Tay.
Thank you.
Dr. Herwick, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Mr. Jones, any questions?
No questions.
Mr. Maddox?
Yes, actually, I do. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Edwards, for coming in today. So I greatly appreciate your time and all the things that you've been doing to rebuild your career and support the communities that you serve. It's very impressive. So thank you very much. I do have a question though, because one of the things you talked about earlier is internal and external resources that you are now availing yourself to. And you spend a significant amount of time talking about all of those things that are, as you described, external scaffolding. But I heard very little about the internal scaffolding that I'm more concerned about, because it's very easy for someone, as you know, as a therapist, for people to do behaviors that are not internally driven by actual healing. And so I'm very curious to hear some of the internal scaffolding that you now are living out of that is really going to support your ongoing sobriety, your ongoing ability to make choices. And here's the sort of context for why I'm asking it, and then I'll stop. It was brought to our attention just through conversation today that even though you got the DUI and were convicted, you continued to drink. And so you readily admitted that you were still in denial and overconfidence, which I appreciate that sort of reflection on that. But I'm still hearing like white knuckle language, because you mentioned just a second ago, if I can't control it, I'll slide into disaster. And so so that sort of, trying to still be in control, still trying to hold whatever it is down is a little concerning to me. So I'll go back to my question and then I'll stop. So what sort of internal resources are you drawing on or skills that you are actively practicing to ensure that you don't go back down that path?
I think the main thing that I lean on in terms of inner strength is being honest about my role in different circumstances. So, and I really want to credit AA, but also my therapist. We worked on this as well, but just being honest, being able to look at if there's something frustrating or something stressful that's going on, either in a relational dynamic of mine or just circumstances in general, trying to look at it from the perspective of how can I take some responsibility? What responsibility do I have in this particular circumstance? And I feel like that allows for one to cope with stress better. And again, I want to give credit to AA. There's an overlap, of course, with psychology, because the internal and external locus of control, I think the Serenity Prayer has everything to do with that, and trying to step back, seeing what you can control about a situation, and then maybe the key part, when it comes to managing stress, being able to let go of things that I don't have control over. And I feel like I wasn't as skilled with that as I am now. And that, in terms of internal scaffolding, I think that is maybe the core strength that I've gained, is to really look at things situation by situation, be able to let go of those things that I have no agency over, and then take real honest look at what role I'm playing, and try to the best of my ability to do the right thing. And that way I don't have to worry about, you know, where I stand morally, or I feel like that part of the decision making internally has allowed me to increase my stress tolerance, and really just be more comfortable in my own skin, even in difficult circumstances.
Okay, no, thank you. That's really helpful. And then I just have one more quick question. I wasn't sure. So who else in your support system around you understands what your triggers are and helps you reflect on things that you might be blind to? Like, you know, we all get stressed out at work. We all get, you know, frustrated and don't recognize it. So who else in your, you know, sphere of influence supports you to help you say, hey, looks like you're a little whatever? Did you know that, or who does that for you?
My wife, my dad, and my program director. We run the program together. So I spend a lot of time with all three of those people, and I think they're very helpful in that way, all to the same degree, really. I think they understand what I'm going through. I've explicitly asked them to help me in this way, to call me out on my BS, and so I feel like those three people are the strongest entities in my kind of sphere of support.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming today, Your Honor. I don't have any more questions.
Mr. Ranasinger, any questions?
Kelly, we cannot hear you.
Sorry, Mr. Edwards. I wanted to confirm, you said you did some training and instruction. You're not doing any continuing education training and instruction right now, are you?
No, sir.
Okay. And in your capacity as one of the TAE co-chairs, you're around other therapists, you know, weekly, monthly?
Well, the council itself is conducted monthly.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. No further questions.
Mr. Sofek, any questions?
Yes, I do. And Your Honor, your mic is really muted again. It's very hard to hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me try to readjust this some more. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, it's so nice to meet you. I went to school in San Diego, so I'm quite familiar with UCSD.
Oh, great. Yeah, okay, UCSD.
So I wanted to check in with you. There's some information that was sent in, and of course now it's slipped out of my frame. Let me check my notes real quick. It was a letter of support from your therapist. And in there, your therapist mentioned that your work on some of the issues, and included amongst that was a description of anger management. And I was curious how the anger management played out potentially in the journey you took earlier, how you feel you control it now, and if any anger challenges might be triggers that would move you towards wanting to use again, in your best estimation.
Very relevant question. I think that when it comes to my use of alcohol, it had to do with frustrations at work, but also personal frustrations that would build and that I wasn't addressing properly. And so I would use alcohol as kind of a pressure valve. And that was just a really unhealthy pattern. And so now what I did, I think that the most important thing that I've done to help myself manage anger and frustration is to focus on strengthening myself and building that baseline tolerance. That's really why I focused on strengthening kind of my body and mind through diet and exercise. It just allows me to be calmer of spirit and more comfortable in my own skin and energized and clear-headed. And so my tolerance for frustration is just higher. And then in terms of when I get frustrated, what types of coping skills can I use so the pressure valve is kind of released throughout the day instead of building it up and then having this need to, to kind of some outlet at the end of the day. I'll say I still have my outlets. Like I live right near Harry Griffin Park, and just to take the dog and now the baby boy to the park, I can feel the relief of the stress of the day just in the park with the boys, and that's great too. But I think at the job, I found that little things like taking walks, taking little breaks, even to listen to music or play music. Sometimes I bother my my coworkers because I have a guitar in my office, and so I will take little guitar breaks. But that's really meaningful to me, and it's intentional because I want to manage throughout the day my frustration, and on a deeper level, like I was speaking to earlier, why am I frustrated? So I'm more introspective and I think honest about what about this situation is frustrating me in the first place. And just to give examples, sometimes maybe there's an upset parent who has certain demands on the program, and the communication is difficult and maybe tense. And I think I'm more capable now of putting myself, instead of being frustrated with that parent, putting myself in their position and realizing that they're scared, they're trying to get help for their child, they're trying to navigate a complex system, and then my heart goes out to them instead of my heart hardening against them. And then again, the stress is better managed that way. I kind of went on and on there, but I hope I addressed your.
Okay, thank you. And I have a question, and it may have a follow-up. I'm not quite sure yet. So from what I'm hearing from you, you are starting in the community of San Diego to take on a very public persona. You've been appointed to a board, you're co-director of an organization, you have a private practice. I'm just wondering, and you're now a new family unit, if as these things are starting to grow and get bigger and your public persona has much more calls on your time and your energy, how do you see yourself stepping up to this next level and maintaining sobriety, managing anger, and keeping yourself on a path that you've designed so far?
That is a good question. I actually think that in terms of responsibility and public persona, I think that is about to maybe shrink a little bit. My term at the council is going to be up soon, and it was hard work, but I'm not sure if I'm going to continue with councils. I think it's really important work, and I'm really proud of my time there. But I think my public persona might actually retreat a little bit. However, I am interviewing for a program directorship, and one of the reasons why I want to be released of the probation is, as a program director there, it would be helpful in that position to be able to sign off hours if needed for different interns. But my plan, if I am to get that job, is to actually refer out as appropriate a lot of my private practice clients and start to consolidate my professional responsibilities to make them more manageable. So to me, I'm trying to focus and streamline my professional responsibilities in the name of making it more manageable and reasonable, given that I am now a family man.
Mhm. And then kind of building on something that Jonathan mentioned earlier is that idea of, yay, streamlining, external, even I could see that, I hear that, but from the inside out, as these bigger things, clinical director of a program is a lot of responsibility and pressure. What's going to be inside that's not going to say, well, you know what? I've got this late night at the clinic. I'm not going to go to a meeting. You know what? I'm meeting with people. One drink's not going to hurt. What inside is potentially going to keep these more pressurized situations from making you at risk again? In your best guess.
My best guess, and again, I got to credit the 12-step program for this. I think I see clearly that that is not an option, and that I have to exercise my other options. I have to think honestly. I have to be introspective. I need to reach out for support. Maybe most importantly, be able to reach out for support and utilize these other skills to manage the stress, however that stress manifests. I am my aversion. Earlier in the meeting, there is this dilemma of should I identify with my alcoholism first or as a person first? And I feel that it's almost equal, because if I lose sight of the fact that I'm an alcoholic, then I can start talking myself into having a drink. And I don't ever want to go there. So I identify strongly with being an alcoholic, and that is for my own protection and protection of my family and the community that I serve. And so the stakes are too high. I'm very much motivated to build other skill sets and find, if I need to, if the stress gets to a new level and I feel I need to expand and get better at my stress management, then I'm gonna look elsewhere. I'm not gonna look to alcohol.
Okay. Thank you so much. I have no further questions.
All right, Ms. Strack, any questions?
I don't have any questions. Thank you so much for being here.
Ms. Willis, any questions?
So I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to make a comment. So thank you, Mr. Edwards, for coming and talking through all of this with us. I want to just congratulate you for your journey to health and fitness. I think a lot of people don't truly understand that it's not about the weight loss, it's about your mind. And I've heard you just on several accounts today talk about how it's given you clarity, made you feel better, made you feel stronger. And I just wanted to say congratulations, because that is a step in the right direction. And I just wanted to make sure that I recognize that.
That means a lot. Thank you.
All right, I think I've gone through all the board members, but in case anyone's thought of any questions since then, any other questions from the board? All right, hearing none. Ms. Jarvis, any further questions?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Edwards, anything further you'd like to say on your behalf?
I just wanted to add that, you know, if termination of probation is granted, I feel like it is going to allow me some more opportunities in my position now, or potentially a new position, to sign off hours and be of use to the interns at the program. And I think it'll just expand my usefulness, and I just wanted to kind of punctuate this meeting with that, and I hope that you consider my petition. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. You're excused as a witness. Do you rest your case?
I rest my case. Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Ms. Jarvis, a closing argument?
No, Your Honor, I have no recommendation. I will defer to the expertise of the board in this matter.
Thank you. Mr. Edwards, your closing argument.
I suppose I'll just reiterate. I hope that the evidence is clear that I'm ready to move forward on my own without the support of the probation, and I think it won't only benefit me, but by through my expanded responsibilities, I think it will help the community and also my family. So I want to thank you one more time. Thanks.
All right, thank you. So that concludes the matter, and the record's closed, the matter submitted, and we are off the record.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yes.
Oh,
let me
go ahead. Go ahead.
Just do a couple closing remarks, Mr. Edwards. So as you may have heard me say with the other matters, the board will adjourn to closed session after it hears all the matters and then issue a decision. So a decision won't be issued today, but later in the future. Probably sometime tomorrow, you'll receive a copy of the court reporter billing sheet from my office. Maybe later today, but probably tomorrow. And that's just in case you want a copy of the transcript for your record that will have the information you need to go about ordering a copy. Okay? Do you have any questions?
I'm curious about the timeline, just in terms of a decision, but is there a normal kind of timeline for that?
So it's usually about 30 days for me to draft it, and then I send it to the board. And then I'm not sure how long it usually takes the board to turn around the decision.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. You're welcome to, thank you for your time, and you're welcome to disconnect.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon, everyone.
You too. Madam Court Reporter, if I could get a page estimate.
Okay. Yes, Your Honor, I have 30 pages.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Chairman, did you want to proceed to the next matter, or did the board need a break?
Since I forced the board a break, I don't know if you all need 5 minutes. It's entirely up to you. I'm scanning through. If you would like to move through or take maybe 5 minutes.
I mean, my personal thought is, since you're asking, I mean, we did have an unexpected break when you were out. I mean, maybe we could do one more and then break. I mean, the day is moving along, and at this clip, we're going to be here till,
Okay.
So
right.
That's just my thoughts. Maybe we could do one more, but I'm open to whatever the group needs.
Let me
Okay.
Oh, I was going to say, let me check in with if I could check in real quick with the court reporter. Madam Court Reporter, are you ready to proceed to the next, or do you need a break?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm fine to go ahead. I only show that I have on my records only have one more case. Is there more than one more to go?
No, just one more.
Okay. Okay, thank you. That's fine.
Okay.
I'm ready to proceed.
Wonderful. Then, yeah. Thank you, Your Honor. Then we can proceed to the next petitioner and then take a break before closed session. We always do that anyway.
Very good. So the final matter will be Pedram Mashfeg. And Mr. Mashfeg, I see that you were promoted to a panelist. If you would please turn on your video and then just give us a quick mic check.
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
I can. Very good.
There we go. Okay. Camera. It won't let me turn on. Oh, there we go. How's that?
There we go. Very good.
Great.
All right. So, Madam Court Reporter, if we could go ahead and go on the record. And we are on the record before the Board of Behavioral Sciences, Department of Consumer Affairs, State of California, in the matter of the petition for early termination of probation of Pedram, P-E-D-R-A-M, Moshfegh, M-O-S-H-F-E-G-H. It's OAH number 2021-040520. My name's Quorum Wong. I'm an administrative law judge with the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I've been assigned to preside over this matter. To establish a quorum of the board for the record, I request that each member respond audibly after his or her name is called. Ms. Willis?
Your Honor, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Streck?
I'm here, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Sovek?
Yes, I'm here.
Mr. Ranashinger?
I'm here.
Mr. Maddox?
I'm here. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
Sorry about that. I'm here.
All right, great. Dr. Herwick?
I'm here.
Ms. Friedman?
I'm here.
Ms. Brown?
Here?
Madam Vice Chairwoman?
Here.
Mr. Chairman?
Present.
All right, let the record reflect that a quorum of the board is present. And Ms. Jarvis, if I could take your appearance for the record, please.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon. I am Deputy Attorney General Christina Jarvis, and I am appearing here on behalf of the Attorney General for the people of the state of California, pursuant to Government Code Section 11522. My role is not adversarial, but it is intended to protect the public interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Mr. Moshfegh, if I could just have you state your appearance for the record.
Pedram Moshfegh, I'm here.
Okay, very good. And Mr. Moshfegh, did you hear my discussion of the procedural aspect of these hearings earlier?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions about the procedure for the hearing?
No, Your Honor.
All right, very good. Ms. Jarvis, do you wish to give your summary and introduce the packet?
Yes, Your Honor. After initially being denied his application for licensure, Petitioner entered into a stipulated settlement with the board effective September 27th, 2018, wherein he was issued an LMFT license on probation for a term of 3 years. The reasons Petitioner was initially denied was that Petitioner had 2 convictions, one in 2005 for a wet reckless, which is driving while under the influence of alcohol, and then in 2008, Petitioner was found to have violated his criminal probation in that case. And then Petitioner's second conviction was for possession of a deadly weapon with the intent to commit assault. The circumstances of that conviction, partially according to Petitioner, is that his drug addiction made him paranoid, and he believed there were people out to get him. He armed himself with a hammer and a crowbar and called 911 for assistance. Petitioner states that he detoxed in January of 2015 and has been sober ever since. He entered a short treatment program of 30 days and then went on to a longer 12-month treatment program to ensure that his addictions are quelled. Petitioner is currently 100% in compliance with probation, and his probation is actually scheduled to terminate at this time in September of 2021, so just a few months from now. In support of his petition, Petitioner has provided the following information. 2 letters from 2 of Petitioner's therapists. One is from approximately March 5th of 2020 through September 12th of 2020, which was the date the letter was written. This therapist is an LMFT, and she states that she is confident that Petitioner will not relapse. The other letter was likely previously submitted with Petitioner's application, as it's dated 2017, and supports the granting of Petitioner's MFT intern license. There were also 2 letters from coworkers who state that they have worked with Petitioner for approximately 2 years. They state that they are aware of Petitioner's struggles with substance abuse and support the early termination of his probation. There is also a letter from Petitioner's brother who supports the termination of probation and speaks at great length, actually, as to how happy he is to have Petitioner restored to the family and restored to him as a brother. There's a 2017 letter from the Phillips Graduate University stating that petitioner was at that time a student of psychology. There's another 2017 recommendation letter for the intern registration. And then there's an undated and somewhat generic letter, reference letters supporting petitioner. This is from the Hills Treatment Center. It is undated, so it's hard to tell where it comes from. But it states that the author does recommend petitioner for, quote, admission to your fine institution. So it would be my impression that that would be more of a generic recommendation letter rather than a specific one for this petition. And then finally, there's a 2017 letter from petitioner sponsor, once again, likely previously submitted as part of petitioner's application. Petitioner also submitted his criminal court records to show that with transparency exactly what occurred. Petitioner provided a personal statement wherein he explains what occurred. And there is a traffic collision report in regards to a 2007 essentially reckless driving. Petitioner refers to it as a dry reckless. There was no alcohol involved, but petitioner was driving at a high rate of speed and ran a red light, causing a vehicular collision. So petitioner, I believe, has provided all of those documents, reaching as far back as he can. Several of the conviction or arrest documents have been expunged at this time because such a long period of time has occurred in the interest of transparency to this board. The entire packet with the notice of hearing on page, I'm just going to make sure that my page numbers are correct again. Notice of hearing is on page 125. The license history certification is on page 128, which is the final page of the packet. The petition itself starts on page 4, and then the underlying decision and order starts on page 104 of the petition packet. That was all uploaded as one PDF to the Office of Administrative Hearings, and I would ask that it be admitted as Exhibit 1.
All right, the documents will be marked collectively as Exhibit 1 for identification. Mr. Moshfegh, do you have any objection to Exhibit 1 being admitted for all purposes?
No, Your Honor, no objections.
All right, Exhibit 1 is so admitted. Anything further, Ms. Jarvis?
No, Your Honor, it is now petitioner's opportunity to address the board.
Okay, Mr. Moshfegh, first let me ask, did you want to call any witnesses other than yourself?
No, Your Honor.
And do you have any additional documents you'd like to mark?
No, Your Honor.
Do you wish to testify at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you'd raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of perjury that the testimony you will provide in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. You may put your hand down. And just to remind you, what the board is most interested in hearing today is about any rehabilitation you've undergone since your license was originally disciplined. So whenever you're ready.
Okay, I want to thank Your Honor, members of the board, and Ms. Jarvis for this opportunity. I kind of want to go back. I kind of just want to read some stuff that I've written down. As Ms. Jarvis explained, I struggled with alcohol and substance dependency for many years.
Honor, may I interject? Mr. Moshfegh, if you could go slowly. If you were here earlier, you heard the court reporter tell me to slow down. When you're reading, you tend to go very, very fast.
Okay, got it. Okay, I'll start over. I struggled with alcohol and substance dependence for many years, starting back at age 10. And I faced many legal consequences as a result of my substance use. Out of interest of full disclosure, when I did apply for my associate number, I decided to disclose every arrest, even minor offenses, because I wasn't sure what would come up and I had nothing to hide. I did disclose 6 incidents. They're all misdemeanors. The few that did pop on the record, I actually provided more than what came up, were the DUI in 2005 and the weapons charge in 2014, I believe is when that happened. And as Ms. Jarvis explained, what I had documented, as a result of my severe drug addiction in those days, on April 27, 2014. I was suffering from paranoia and distorted thinking that people were about to attack me. As a result, I did attempt to protect myself. I took out a hammer and a crowbar out of my car. I did confront these people. I was full of fear. I wasn't sure what was going on. I was under the influence at the time. And once I realized that they're not a threat, but I still thought they'd been following me, I put the hammer and crowbar back in the car. I called 911 and I sat there and waited for the police to arrive. The police did arrive at gunpoint and they did arrest me. I tried to explain what was going on, but it was definitely my fault. I went to court. I pled no contest to the charge, possession of a deadly weapon. I was placed on summary probation for 24 months in order to attend mental health counseling twice per month. My probation was terminated after 12 months because I had attended mental health counseling weekly instead of the bi-monthly, and I did attend 13 months of treatment. I started, as Mr. Roberts explained, it was an intensive outpatient program for 30 days where I paid out of pocket for that. I realized at the end of that 30 days, there's no way that that was enough. I found a organization that was willing to allow me to go in through my insurance and through some out of pocket, where I went ahead and jumped into that. After the arrest in April 2014, it took me some time. On January 5th I can actually remember, January 4th, I was homeless. I was sleeping on a freeway overpass, lost, broken, pretty much on my deathbed. I had seen doctors in the past, and they had told me numerous times, there's not much more. The next time you will die. I'll even go back. In 2011, I was in a coma for 47 days from the surgery that I had. Once I awoke from that coma, I had to learn how to walk again, how to sit again, how to eat, talk, everything again. And as soon as I could sit and walk, I left and went to go use drugs again. So when I talk about my addiction was severe, it was at the ultimate. On January 5th, 2015, I did detox myself for 2 weeks. I have been sober ever since. Today, I have 6 years and 4 months. After the detox, I voluntarily checked in to the outpatient program at Authentic Recovery Center for 1 month. And again, I recognized that wasn't enough, so I transferred to the Hills Treatment Center. I was at the Hills Treatment Center for a full year, where I did residential, intensive outpatient, for the full 12 months of that. Throughout that time, I attended 2 to 3 AA meetings per day. I actually had both an AA sponsor and an NA sponsor. I got in a little trouble for having two once they found out about each other. I have worked all 12 steps several times. You're not allowed to have two, by the way. While I was in outpatient, I had moved into their sober living home. And that's when, in January 2019, while I was still a client of their outpatient and in their sober living home, is when I went back to school in my 30s and pursued education in psychology. Through my education in psychology, my traineeship, I decided to go through the co-occurring program, and I was located at both the counseling center, which I worked with teens that were suffering from addiction, and at Twin Town Treatment Center, which is a drug and alcohol outpatient program, where, again, it was co-occurring disorders. I've been in therapy, I can't even say how long. There was one person, so when I first went to ATC in January of 2015, I met a gentleman. He's the therapist, one of the therapists who wrote me that letter back then. This man honestly saved my life. Him, along with the NA program, the workbook, the sponsors, the meetings, they completely changed my life. He's the one who kind of opened my eyes of, maybe you want to work in this field. I actually have a degree in engineering. I used to be an on-site construction engineer. I've decided that wasn't working. Every time I'd go back into that field, I would relapse. I've been in and out of the rooms for over 20 years. I think my first treatment episode was at age of 25, where I went to my first residential program. And I remember walking in that day, reaching my hand out, asking them for the pill, because I thought they're going to give me a pill and my addiction goes away. So I've come a long ways. Let's see. I've actually, once my life, before my associate number was granted through the stipulated settlement, I had already started working for a company as a drug and alcohol counselor. I was working with teens. Once my license was granted, obviously I was an associate MFT and I continued working with these teenagers. I was actually started a program where I would take these teenagers once a week to an AA meeting to expose them to that. I was very active with helping them get sponsors and to do the 12 steps. I quickly got promoted in the ranks within 6 months to an administrator, and then to a project director, which is called a program director of a large outpatient facility. I had my own caseload where I worked with, it's called Family Dependency Drug Court. These are the women who have given birth while under the influence and the babies had been removed. It was a 13-month outpatient program where we had our own judge, we had our own social workers, and we had a 95% success rate of getting them linked back to their kids and getting custody of their kids back. I volunteered before COVID. I would go to one of the recovery homes, and there was two, a men's home and a women's home, and on Sundays, I would take them with me to a few different meetings. Let me think. Yeah, I provided some letters from different people in my life. Let's see. For me, it was, I think, January 2015. I was finally ready for the first time in my life. I was done. And I think that's the big difference. I've learned over 15 years before that, in and out of the rooms, that message gets planted. It was a miracle that now I understand. Once I was ready, I knew exactly what to do, where to go, how to do it. It was just like something took over my body like a robot. It just all clicked all of a sudden. For the first time, I was ready to do this for me. Through my recovery in these last 6 years, I got married 2.5 years ago. I'm actually looking to get a doctorate in metaphysics. I've started that process. I think I said I started an AA. I don't know if I said that. So I started an AA meeting myself that would meet at noon on Mondays. At the facility that I was the program director, there was an open meeting for our clients and any outside people. We had stopped that because of COVID. I developed a very big social sober support network. I've learned in life that I had to cut out more than half the people in my life because they were just unhealthy. They're all drug addicts, alcoholics. I only surround myself with my wife who is sober, with my sober social support, and some family. I've even had to disconnect from some family members who are severe alcoholics, and I've just decided to end that part of our relationship. I have trained, I was a supervisor for the counselors. In November of last year, I resigned my position as the director of that company. I had the opportunity to go study for my LMFT exam. I took a month, I studied, I passed, I got hired, and now I am a clinical coordinator for another substance abuse agency This is a 45-bed residential treatment site, mostly in custodies, court-ordered, some DCFS. Over there, I have very few clients of my own. I do some of the intakes and assessments of any of the severe, it's a severe co-occurring program there. I do assessments on anybody who comes in severely under the influence or with severe psychological disorders, and I kind of evaluate them and figure out where to link them if we can take them into our property or not. Besides that, I actually do a bunch of training for the staff at this site. They're all counselors. I do law and ethics, mandated reporter, suicide. I'm actually one of their crisis managers that whenever there is a crisis, which is unfortunately every day there, I'm the one who gets called and I have to go figure out what's going on. You know, I decided that this is my purpose in life. I know that the money's not there in this field. I can go back to engineering and construction and be unhappy and stressed and make money there. But, you know, I came to the realization that there was no purpose in my life then. You know, I had to find this purpose and connection in order to live a sober life. And I think this is my purpose in life, to give back. You know, the way this therapist honestly saved my life in 2015, that I have now been able to do that. I have had sponsees in the past. I don't have any right now. And I think I gave you a lot of information.
All right, thank you. Ms. Jarvis, cross-examination?
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mushfag, what was your drug of choice? We've heard a lot about your drug addiction, but what were you actually on?
I was majority, it was heroin and then crack cocaine. It ended with crack cocaine.
And how did alcohol fit into that?
Alcohol, I started drinking alcohol at the age of 10. I want to say throughout high school, it was alcohol and cannabis, and it slowly progressed over the years to cocaine and psychedelics. I want to say I've tried almost, not the new stuff because there's not a lot of new stuff that keeps coming out, but I had tried almost everything in the past. I want to say, you know, I started smoking opium later, in the later years of high school, dabbling in cocaine. And I want to say when I went away for my engineering school, pretty much midway through that is where I got introduced to crack cocaine. That really took over my life, along with the heroin. For many years, I was using both. I attempted sobriety numerous times. I would get a little bit here and there. I'd relapse. But those were all out of being forced to do it by family, my wife, girlfriends, just out of necessity, no choice.
You mentioned engineering school. Did you get a degree in engineering?
Yes, I did.
And that was while still using cocaine and other substances?
Yes.
Did you work as an engineer?
I did.
And still while using the cocaine and other substances?
Yes.
What is your official sobriety date?
January 5th, 2015, 1515.
So, and that was well prior to even entering into the stipulated settlement with this board.
Yes.
When you decided to get clean and sober, I believe you did essentially 13 months, right? Because you did a 1-month program and then you went to the 12-month program.
Yes.
Was that experience of those inpatient programs what caused you to sort of make this change in your career versus going back to engineering?
Yes. So it was that therapist who I met that first month I got sober that completely changed my life. It's funny because I met him at this agency and he also worked for this other agency as well. It was just a coincidence at first. I didn't even know he worked at the other agency when I transferred. And that's when I asked him to be my personal therapist. And it was through that experience of just, he saved my life. I can't even explain it. It's just.
And that's what it sounded like. I just wanted to try to get
Yeah.
a nice short statement to that effect.
Yes.
So at this time, do you continue to attend either AA or NA?
Yes, I do.
And does that therapist continue to be your sponsor, or do you have a separate sponsor?
He can't be my sponsor. He's kind of my mentor now, right? I actually, one of the biggest problems I had with Board of Behavioral Sciences was that once I was given my associate number, I wasn't allowed to continue therapy with him. So I had to change therapists. So he's more of a mentor to me these days.
Okay. And then you sponsor anybody else?
One more time.
Do you sponsor anybody else?
Right now, I'm not sponsoring anybody, but I have. I
have no
usually
other
meet people I
questions.
would sponsor at in-person meetings. So it's hard without going in-person meetings right now. Bless you.
Thank you. I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Moshfegh, anything else you would like to say on your behalf?
Not right now.
All right. I'll turn it to the board. First, Ms. Willis, any questions?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, I have one question. What kind of things do you do for self-care? I know you've been to all these trainings. I know you've done, that work, but what do you do for yourself when the stress is unbearable and you can't turn to drugs and alcohol?
I have a large social sober support system. So it's usually them, my wife, my sister. It took training some of these people. I remember like the first few times I'd go to my wife or my sister and I'd say, hey, I'm having these thoughts. They're automatically reply, are you stupid? And it's like, no, that's not what I'm asking for. I need some support here. So I use cooking. I love watching TV and watching my shows. When I am really stressed, I will cook. I go on walks. We recently got a new puppy, so that's really helping. And just being with my community, just being around sober people.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Struck, any questions?
Yeah, I think I just have two questions. You mentioned you're pursuing a doctorate. Did you say it's in metaphysics?
Yes.
Is that more related to your previous profession? I'm sorry, I'm not that familiar with it. Or is it more related to your current profession?
It's a kind of related, kind of not. It's more about like meditation and healing that way. It's just a different view on recovery.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you for clarifying that. And then I noticed, I think your date for the end of probation is September of this year. So what are you hoping to get out of ending this process 5 months early? What are you looking for out of this early termination?
Well, there's a few things. There's a large financial side to it. All the drug testing, it was almost every week. It was like $150 a week. I actually had some problems with urine testing, so I asked them if we can do something else. So they were doing blood tests on me every 2 weeks, and then they were doing hair sample tests on me every 30 to 45 days. It was really expensive. I'm also looking to change possible jobs. I've been looking for another director position, and it's hard to do those when you're under probation.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
I've actually interviewed for a few, and once I tell them I'm on probation, that they're not willing to take me on at this time.
Okay. Well, thank you for your honesty and for sharing your journey with us. Thank you. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Sovak, any questions?
No, I have no questions at this time.
Mr. Ranasinger?
Hello. May I ask, when did your brother write that letter?
That's actually my sister. I'm sorry. I wanted to correct it, but I didn't. It was my sister wrote it, and she wrote this. She didn't did it. She wrote this for my application for early termination or probation.
Okay, but when? Because there's no date on it.
So it must have been when I applied in September of 2020.
Okay. That letter, in particular, that letter, I spent a lot of time reading it because it says that, I mean, you restarted school in your 30s, you graduated with honors, you studied engineering. One of the things you mentioned is that you were doing drug and alcohol counseling before you were an LMFT. Are you a certified drug and alcohol counselor too?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's fine. And the letter says you helped a lot of family members with their drug addiction. You counseled cousins and friends. You've helped a lot of people. And I'm not a clinician. I'm a lawyer. I'm a public member. And so forgive me if I'm using the wrong terminology here. Is one of your coping mechanisms helping other people?
No. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. A lot of this was just, I come from a long line of addiction in my family, and it's just interventions, helping the parents of these relatives on what to do, how to set those boundaries. You know, I've had these conversations with my family of like, why didn't you guys do something? Why did you wait 20 years, right? Why didn't you put your foot down? You know, if you did, maybe this wouldn't have happened. So I tried to help out that way.
It was very, very interesting. It was some very interesting context she provided to your application.
Mm-hmm.
I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Maddox, any questions?
Yes, I have one, but I just want to start by saying it was a joy listening to you today.
Thank you.
That is probably the most impressive testimony I have heard of just tenacity and resilience and a commitment to your own health and wellness that I have ever heard. I am just impressed by your journey. And I think it is evident by your conversation. It is evident by the choices you've made in life. It is evident by the internal drive that you have articulated and are demonstrating just in your life that you want to do well, and that you have been able to latch on to a purpose that has given your life significant meaning. And I think that is what we are always looking for when a probationer comes before us, is that they've made this life change. But the interesting thing about you is that you did that before you even came to us. I mean, you just happen to have to go through this process because of some unfortunate things in your past. So I just want to say congratulations to you, to your support system, to your process. And I heard when you first started, you mentioned overdoing it with the sponsors. Well, if you want to overdo it in any area of your life, you might as well overdo it with sponsors. You know, we don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a comment, and then I want to ask my question. So I hope you write a book one day, because your story is a compelling, people should hear it, and you should share it, because it would inspire hope in anyone who feels like their life is over. I mean, you embody that. So thank you. My question is, and this is just more of in line with Yvette's question. One of the things that is always important for us to remember is that we're human beings and not human doings. And I hear a lot of things that you're doing. So I'm just curious, how do you balance that with just being, like when you're just not doing anything, or you're hanging out with your wife, or walking your dog, or skateboarding, whatever you do? Like, so what are your being activities?
You know, it's just about having balance and healthy boundaries. I love vegging out. I love, you know, I at least, you know, when I come home every day from work, I give her the time out. you know, I need that 1 hour. I need to decompress. Leave me alone. So it's learning to set those healthy boundaries and having that balance, leaving work where it is, coming home to my personal life, to my family. I try to at least 1 day a week, which is usually my Sundays, just nothing but just relax and be together. And I see my family every Friday night. I have dinner with my sisters, my mom, and some extended family every Friday night.
All right. Well, let me just reiterate, kudos to you.
Thank you.
You have a beautiful story, and I am glad that you're in our profession.
Thank you.
You are the type of therapist that is going to do great healing work in the lives of other people. So thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
Mr. Jones, any questions?
Sorry, my computer's acting like Max's computer. No, I don't. That was a very compelling story, though. Thank you for being here.
Great. Dr. Herwick?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Friedman?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say thank you for sharing that incredible story with us. It's very illuminating, and I'm happy to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Brown, any questions?
No questions, but I'd like to piggyback on what others have said. Thank you for your story and your honesty. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Madam Vice Chairwoman?
Thank you, Your Honor. I have one comment and also one question. So your story is really incredible. And being an immigrant myself, you know, I can see, you know, just the struggle that you went through, and just that, you know, just very incredible experience that you have in life, you know, when you basically, you know, have to face death, still could not stop using. And, you know, when the light turned on, like you say, that you just knew what to do. So I think, you know, I can just feel that, you know, your internal energy is just really, really absolutely amazing. So I'm curious, since you like to work with teens, and, you know, and I'm sure that probably, you know, comes from how, you know, your own personal experience. And, you know, and I almost can see that, you know, what probably, you know, that's, you know, your desire, you know, to help the teenager not to go down the path, you know, that you have been through, you know, it's definitely, you know, probably, you know, one of the foundation why you know, like that work. And so in that sense, what is the advice or what is the focus for you, you know, to help those teenagers now when they're using, you know, that, you know, the disaster is going to happen. So normally, you know, when you do therapy with them, what is your angle? What is your focus?
So it's very funny you asked that. First of all, when I work with teens and kids, I have to have family involved, right? I really don't want to work with teens if family's not involved. It just doesn't work. I remember at the beginning, I was really trying so hard. You know, what I've learned with teens is we have to make this a positive experience. They are not ready right now, just like I wasn't. But we have to make this a positive experience so that when they are ready, they won't be scared to come and ask for help. That's it in a nutshell. Teach them, implant the message, the seed. You know, I use a lot of self-disclosure with my clients because, as the gentleman said, I have that hope for them, right? I was positive I'd be dead by this age. This, not in my wildest dreams did I think I would be here today. I'd be sober. I'd have a wife. I just went back to school. In my wildest dreams, I never thought this was possible. And when I share my story with these teens and I hold that hope, I show them there is hope. This is possible. And I even do that with my adult clients. But it's just making this a positive experience so when they are ready, which they're not, and that's okay. When they are, they know what to do.
So that is a very personal story, experience you have, because it's always about that readiness. And so, so how do you balance, that, when you're in therapy, about, the level of the self-disclosure and versus also focusing on the client to look at their uniqueness and not kind of like using the session to do, to do self-therapy?
I use a lot of motivational interviewing with them. It's just I'm rolling with their resistance, right? I have to understand. The good thing is, like, I came from there. I can put myself in their shoes. I know exactly what's going through their mind. And it's just meeting them where they at, not pushing my agenda on them. I learned early on when I was a trainee was that, the first couple of times I'd come into session, I'm going to save this kid's life. I'm going to do this. You're going to change. And I realized I was doing harm. When I realized, if I can just be a human being in this room and let go of those thoughts that I wanted, being selfish for me, because I want to save your life, that's when change started to happen for my clients.
Very, very good. And I sort of remember what, in your testimony, and you said that, you were working in that, working with the mother, in the hospital, and then you have a successful rate of 94%.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I think that is probably very evident that, your approach works. And I'm very glad that, you're able to uphold that boundary also.
Yeah.
So, which is very important, in our line of work, making sure that, we're, we're not using the therapy session, for your own purpose.
Yes.
So glad that we get to hear your story. And I really wish the best for you in your future and future professional growth. Thank you.
I actually think maybe one day I want to sit on the board with you guys.
It's on the record now. So
Great.
that's good.
Put it out there. Yes.
Thank you very much. I have no further question, Your Honor.
Great. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Okay, I couldn't hear you. It was for me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. Thank you. No question, actually. I just want to share the same sentiment of my board peers. Watch out what you wish for board candidacy. After you're done, we're always looking for new experienced and qualified professionals to join the board. So that's for sure. But going back, I was also very fascinated by the experience and the way you walk us through the journey, the work you've done. It was very, very impressive. So I just wanted to thank you personally for doing this work and for sharing with us, even though you were pretty much done. I mean, you were like only 4 months away from ending your probation, even putting yourself through this. And there is always an element of stress, right? And taking time off from that busy schedule. We really appreciate that, because I know it means a lot to you and to us as well. So thank you. Thank you so much. I'll end it there.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I think I've gone through all the board members, but just in case anyone's thought of any subsequent questions, any further questions from the board? All right, hearing none. Ms. Jarvis, anything further on cross?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
And Mr. Moshfegh, anything you would like to say, anything else you'd like to say on your behalf?
No, Your Honor. This was a very amazing experience. Thank you.
All right. Do you rest your case, Mr. Moshfegh?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Jarvis, closing argument?
At this time, Your Honor, I have no recommendation. I will defer to the expertise of the board in this matter.
Mr. Moshfegh, your closing argument?
Just a recap of everything, one thing that I've learned is I am so grateful for my experiences. I am so grateful for my drug addiction, right? Because I've been exposed to a world through AA, through the 12 steps. It's funny because I tell normal people who aren't alcoholics or addicts to go read the AA book, to go get a sponsor and do the 12 steps, right? It's been life-changing for me. So just gratitude on a daily basis for my past, my experiences. I was waiting for Ms. Jarvis or somebody to ask me about the steps. You know, for me, it was just surrender. This last time, you know, it was, you know, I came in, as many people do, I knew it all. I knew everything. And it took complete surrender of admitting that I don't know what I'm doing, because if I did, I'd be sober already, right? And just letting go. And one of the most amazing things in my life has been making those amends, right? Thank God my dad died pretty much right before I got my first year of sobriety. I was able to be sober for him and be with him. And it's another thing I'm doing is a living amends to him for all the pain that I've caused him in my life, in his life. That's it.
All right, thank you very much. So the record's closed, the matter's submitted, and we are off the record. So Mr. Moshfegh, as you may have heard me say at the end of the prior proceedings, the board will adjourn to closed session shortly, and we'll discuss your petition. And so a decision won't be issued today, but will be issued in the future. And either later today or probably more likely tomorrow, you should receive from my office a copy of the court reporter billing detail. And that's just for your records in case you would like to order a copy of the transcript. Okay, do you have any questions?
No, I will await your decision. You said, I heard you tell the previous person it could take up to a month.
Well, at least a month, because I have 30 days to write my decision, proposed decision, or I have, well, I guess what it is I write it for the board and then I send it over to the board.
All right.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
All
I
right.
appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You're welcome to disconnect.
Thank you.
And Madam Court Reporter, if I could get a page estimate.
Yes, Your Honor, I have 30 pages.
Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Chairman, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. At this point, I think we are ready to go in closed session. Usually we're taking a few minutes break just to recompose ourselves. And I believe in closed session, we don't need any court reporter, of course. Only you, Your Honor, and obviously not the petitioner. So for those of you that are not part of the closed sessions, we can definitely close the meeting and re-adjourn in about 10 minutes. So it's 2:35. What about at 2:45? Thank you, everyone.
And I will thank the board members for their attention and hang up. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much. Thanks likewise. Thank you for your work.
Thanks for your attention. I appreciate it.
And as well to our court order as well. So thank you so much for your work.